The lesson learned here today, you can't start slow in this league. A late rally was not enough. The Sooners toppled the Commodores 92-91. We are live.
You are Locked On Vandy, your daily podcast on the Vanderbilt Commodores, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome into a live edition of the Locked On Vandy podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, the number one sports podcast network in the world. Thanks for making us your first listen. Got an interesting one tonight. I'm your host, Corey Burton, and going to talk about what did we just watch today at Memorial. That was one of those games where, I gave up. You did too. The fans gave up. It was the building was nearly empty. It was about as ugly of a game as you could get for about 36 minutes. And then a late rally, too little, too late. You go down 92-91. So we're going to talk about that. The good, the bad, and the ugly. Tyler Nickel, 18 points. Tyler Tanner, 37 points. Phenomenal game from a point standpoint. And he had a banged up thumb. So there's some good here. There's some bad. Not a whole lot of bad, but there's some good. There's a little bit of bad and a whole lot of ugly. And so we're going to talk about that. And Oklahoma, you got to tip your cap to them as well. They got off to a 15-2 run to start the game. They were red hot. They just couldn't be stopped down in the, Tay Davis down in the post, 13 points in the first 6 minutes of the game. Had no answer for him for a long time. So interesting game here. Thanks for making us your first listen. Thank you for joining, however you're joining. So this episode is brought to you by Mazda. We put that same drive into every detail. Wins define the moment, putting in the work that defines you. Stay tuned for this week's Moving the Game Forward. There's more to a Mazda because there's more to you. Now, in a losing effort, like I said, we're live, so your comments, if you were there, what are your thoughts? Are you just as befuddled as me as far as how that game went? Like when I checked the final box score, like I get an alert from ESPN, and I saw it, and I was like, wait a second, hold on, no, this is not right. Something, the glitch. Like I thought I was seeing it wrong. Like I was like, it's supposed to be like 91-61. We were supposed to get 30 piece there, and I looked down, I'm like 92-91. What? They were down 20 with like 5 minutes to go. Like, what? And that was my reaction. That was literally like, I was completely floored. And I'm thinking, well, dang, if you would have just played 8 good minutes of basketball, you probably win the game. If you play, well, that's what's crazy about this one, because you play like absolute garbage for 36 minutes. And then all of a sudden you lose and you're down 20, and then you lose by 1 and you have that late rally. Like if you'd have just played 3 more minutes of good basketball, you probably win the game, and you probably win it comfortably. Not too comfortably, but like in the way this day was set up, you probably win it with a little bit of pad. And that's what's frustrating about this team. That's the biggest frustrating thing about this team. And I know they were depleted. I know Tanner took a nick early and was down with his thumb. He was protecting his thumb a little bit, and he was kind of cold. Tyler Nickel didn't get – I don't think he got his first bucket until like 6 minutes into the ballgame. It was a slow start. And they just looked soft for like 36 minutes. It was the Charmin Commodores that took the court today. And, I even sent out a tweet that said the Nickel and Tanner show is going to start soon, hopefully. And it started, but it started like 5 minutes before closing time, and they got kicked out. That's the, if we're doing a Music City reference, like that's, you can't do that in this league. You really can't. And so the box score looks like this, right? 92-91, your final. Hats off to Oklahoma. They did everything. They played well. Tay Davis had 14 points. 13 of them were in the first 6 minutes. So, they found an answer for him, thankfully. Their entire starting lineup was in double digits. Xavier Brown, 20 points, most of that in the second half. They were just hot. You had 6 guys in double digits. Dalen Forsyth was the sixth man, played 23 minutes, scored 12 points. And they played Jaden Jones. He got 8 points. But as far as Vandy goes, not much beyond Tanner, Nickel, and Okirke. Tanner, 37 points. Obviously, he was the player of the game in a losing effort. You had Jalen Washington, 4 points, but he had 10 rebounds. Devin McLaughlin, 9 points. Tyler Nickel, 18. A.K. Okirke, 13. And then not hardly anything from your bench. Chandler Bing played 21 minutes, scored 4 points. Not a whole lot of contribution there. Tyler Harris, 5 points on 15 minutes. And you had Mike James, 13 minutes, didn't score a single bucket. Like, you just can't have that. Like, those bench guys have got to come in and give quality minutes, right? If you're going to play 21 minutes, you've got to have the output that reflects that. At least have 8 to 12 points. If you're going to play 21 minutes, you got to have some sort of contribution there. And Chandler Bing's a freshman, but he didn't really amount to much in his 21 minutes of game action. It was quite the opposite of what we had gotten from him, in the 3, 4, 5 game stretch before that. He had gotten some pretty decent production in his minutes, and he was actually adding a lot to the game. But it just seemed like outside of Tyler Tanner, nobody was doing much, and nobody could do much, and it just didn't seem like anybody wanted to do much. And the biggest lesson from this game, the biggest takeaway is, in this league, if you start slow, if you come out of the gates soft, not real sure, timid, you're going to get smacked. 15-2 before you blink, that game was over. And now you're trying to fight and claw your way back, and you never. It's hard in this league to regain control. I don't care who you're playing. You could be playing South Carolina, who's the worst team in the league. You're not. It's rare that you're going to survive that kind of run to start the game. You're playing catch up the whole time. They've got confidence now. They're hitting shots. You have, like I said, look, their entire starting lineup plus their number one sub. Anyone that got more than 20 minutes was in double-digit scoring. I mean, you had Tay Davis that took it over from the jump. You had Pack, who was just hitting 3 after 3 after 3. He had 17 points. You had Forsyth coming off the bench. He made an impact. Xavier Brown, he didn't do much in the first half, but he in the second half he was on point. 14 of his 20 came in the second half. So you just can't get down like that, because you expend so much of your energy trying to mount a comeback that you just can't overcome that. And you just can never get proper footing in these games. And it just kills your momentum, because everything you do, Oklahoma's feeling good. They're just gonna keep nudging that finish line, and it just seems insurmountable. And even though, and I was thinking in my mind when I saw this, I was like, that is the most lopsided 1-point loss I've ever seen, because Vanderbilt was never in control of that game, ever. I would say they got very fortunate. Vanderbilt did not lead ever. I don't even think that. I think Oklahoma led 99% of the time because they started the game tied at 0. And that's the reason why they didn't lead 100% of the time. So it's, like I said, 46% from 3. You see that number, usually you're like, okay, it's a good win. 47% from the field, not great, but also if you're shooting equally as well, or I guess If you're shooting an equal percentage from three-point land, you're like, okay, well, we made up for it. 84% from the line. Like, if you just look at these stats and do not look at the final, you're like, okay, they won, right? You look at rebounds, even in rebounds, but 32 is a good night. 32 to 30 in rebounds. You had turnovers. You had 13 turnovers. You had one less than they did. You got 19 points off of their turnovers. You had 19 fast break points. You had 30 points in the paint. Like, you committed 23 fouls. Stat line from just a pure numbers perspective, it's good. It's a good stat line. But when you watch the flow of the game, it was awful. It just didn't seem like there was any energy. They looked exhausted. They looked uninterested. They looked, and they played that way, and they played soft to start the game for the first 36 minutes of the game. I don't even want to say the start of the game. I mean, there was a very minor stretch, very brief stretch in the first half, about midway through the first half, where they cut it to 4, and you're like, okay, we got a game. And then you blink and they're back up by 15. You're like, what just happened? So, but that's just the ugly truth to, it doesn't matter who you're playing in this league. I mean, Oklahoma's 12-12 overall, 2-9 in the conference. Like, that was supposed to be a wipe the floor with them type of game. And you don't start well, this is the kind of thing that happens. So, was there anything that was good? Well, we're gonna discuss that, because I wanted to talk about how important the start of the game was, but there was some good there, obviously, and we're going to talk about it next. Last call for football. One final Sunday, that's tomorrow. One last kickoff. The final chance to get in on the action before the NFL season officially comes to a close. This is Super Bowl 60. And FanDuel is making sure you're right in the middle of it with a special offer just in time for the biggest game of the year. Now, I want to know in the comments, who are you taking? Now, I know this is more of a basketball show, but like, who are you taking? What are your thoughts on the game, first of all? But who are you taking in the Super Bowl? I'm going Seahawks minus 4.5. I'm leaning towards the under at 45.5, and I'm going to take Jackson Smith and Jigba. I'm going to take him on the over with 6.5 receptions. So I'm gonna look at some other FanDuel parlays, and I'm gonna build some interesting stuff. So so whether you're taking the Seahawks, the Patriots, or you're just in there for some fun prop bets, it doesn't matter. FanDuel's the place to go. FanDuel is the biggest thing, the most fun, and it's a perfect way to cap off the season and make the Super Bowl even more exciting from kickoff to final whistle. I think you can bet on the color of Gatorade too, which I would go blue. I'm going to go blue Gatorade for that. So if you're a new customer, bet just $5 to get $200 in bonus bets if you win. Make it count, because after the Super Bowl, the season is over. You have the last call for football on FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of Super Bowl 60. So visit FanDuel.com to get started. Tax season. Everybody stresses about tax season, but it doesn't have to take over your life. This year, TurboTax is making it easier than ever to just hand things off and move on with your day. With TurboTax full service, you can have your taxes done for you by a trusted local expert, start to finish, without the stress or the guesswork. Instead of spending hours trying to figure out forms, you can meet with a local TurboTax expert in person or connect online. They handle everything from W-2s to self-employed forms, and they work to get you every deduction. You can upload your documents, go about your day, and get updates right in the TurboTax app. It's a huge time saver and gives real peace of mind knowing that an expert is handling it. So for a limited time, you can have your taxes done by a local TurboTax expert for just $150 all in. TurboTax expert did not file for you last year, just filed by February 28th. Take your taxes off your plate and get back to your life. Visit TurboTax.com/local to book your appointment today. Now, many of you are curious about this, I'm sure. If you're an everydayer, thank you first and foremost. But why don't you let's take it to the next level, right? Who doesn't want ad-free audio? That's one thing you get with the Everydayer Club. You get access to a members-only Discord channel, and there's a lot of other things too. You just gotta join. It's $5 monthly, or if you choose the annual option, I think you get a little bit of a savings. It's $50 annually. Lockedon.vandy.supercast, lockedonvandy.supercast.com. It's also in the link show notes, and it's also in the description as well. So make sure you just check that out. And join the Everydayer Club today. You won't regret it, I promise you. Thank you for making Locked On Vandy your first listen. Thank you for making Locked On number one. Vandy goes down 92-91. They could not summon enough Memorial Magic, not quite enough Memorial Magic. And a late game rally after being down by a lot was just too little too late. They go down 92-91, your final. Oklahoma snaps a big losing streak. They improved to 2-9 in the conference, 12-12 overall. Vanderbilt drops to 19-4 overall, and that would be 6-4 in the SEC. All four of their losses coming in the SEC. All right. So despite the horrible start, despite being soft for the first 36 minutes of the game, I felt like the one thing that they just kept, I think at some point they turned it on and they showed some resiliency. Whatever that was, and maybe soft's not the right word, not focused, lackadaisical, just kind of, I don't know, unmotivated to start. And then they just got down. And when they finally woke up and they finally realized it, they were in a battle that they were in an uphill climb that they just could not get any footing. And then when they finally did, it was too late. And I'm glad that this team kept fighting. I'm glad that they kept trying, right? As bad as it looked, and I don't know if soft is the right word. I it's probably not, but as bad as it looked, as just as off as they were, they fought back. And Oklahoma helped them a little bit, but they fought back. And they erased, almost completely erased, but they erased the better part of a 22-point deficit to almost win this game. Now, almost is only good in horseshoes and hand grenades, and there's no moral victories out there. Like I said, we're live, so whatever comments you have, if you were at the game, just let me know what you think. Let me know what your thoughts are. But, I thought Tyler Tanner, despite taking a shot to his thumb, I thought he played extremely well with 37 points. I mean, he was you just couldn't get enough consistency from the rest of the lineup. And it just seemed like he could only bail water a bucket at a time, and it was coming in 4 buckets at a time into the boat, and he can only eliminate 1 bucket at a time. So it just seemed like they were just fighting an uphill battle the whole way. Tyler Nickel, 18 points. He shot, what was his 3-point percentage? He was, let me look at his numbers. Tyler Nickel was 5 of 11 from 3. Not much the rest of the way, just not much of an impact. Just kind of scattered those points a little bit. You just wish he could have hit some big shots to kind of settle this team down, and he just couldn't do it. But I thought, again, the fight was there. They did some good things for a couple of stretches where they strung together some good possessions defensively and offensively. Devin McLaughlin had one of the best blocks of the day, probably one of the best blocks of the season. I mean, it was fun. It was enough to where ESPN even followed up with they followed up with one of those notifications like, oh my gosh, one of those reaction ones. But I'm struggling to figure out, I'm struggling to find enough good to kind of make you feel better about it. I mean, but there's just not a ton of good things from this game. This is going to be one of those rough film sessions, one of those rough practice sessions when the team reconvenes. This is going to be one of those where Mark Byington's like, hey, we had a crap week of practice, and and probably some of it was what we thought was going to happen against Ole Miss, given the circumstances with the weather. But it happened, it was delayed. It's a delayed reaction. So I imagine, I guess, coming down off of that adrenaline rush of the ice storm and all of that, and having to sleep at the Huber Center, and probably not having power, probably everything just being disjointed. It just probably just set in, the effects of it set in a week later. And that's probably what affected it, if we're being honest. But again, excuses are just that. They're just excuses. So the fact of the matter is this: they've just got to get back and settle in and get back to reality. But that's the good. Of course, the ugly obviously is what I talked about earlier. And bad was just, there wasn't a ton of bad. The bad was just, you just couldn't be consistent enough to string together enough good possessions to get control of this game early, or when you cut it down to 4, you had a chance to get control of it. And then, of course, coming out of halftime, you had a chance to get control of it. And then, it just wasn't meant to be. So what's next for the Commodores? What do you have to do? Again, the front court issues are bad. We're going to talk about more of that. We're going to break down just kind of what's next and what they have to do to ensure that this doesn't happen again. We'll talk about that, and we'll close out. Stay locked. Mazda. Well, we're going to move the game forward here. This is Mazda's moving the game forward for those who show there's more to the score than what's on the screen. Now, despite a losing effort, Tyler Tanner, once again, 37 points. In a losing effort with a bad thumb, probably exhausted. It just wasn't enough, unfortunately. But again, it's these things that remind us of what it really takes to raise the bar. It's that extra work off the court. It's dialing in every detail. It's giving it that extra fire, that grit, and the I never quit attitude. So we put that same passion into every model. Highlights make the reel. What it took to get there makes it count. There's more to a Mazda because there's more to you. All right, wrapping up here, Locked On Vandy. We are live, so it's your last chance to get any live comments for my reaction here if you want. Now, Vandy goes down 92-91 to Oklahoma, who had been on I think it was a 9-game losing streak. I can't remember the exact number, but it was a sizable losing streak for that matter. And, Oklahoma was able to snap that. Now, I don't want to get out of here without giving some props to Oklahoma because they did what Vanderbilt should have done. They came out firing on all cylinders. They came out and said, hey, you know what? We're going to immediately put pressure on their front court. We're going to immediately take it to the basket. And they did just that. 15-2, 6 minutes into the game. Vanderbilt Memorial Gym's left scratching their head. This team is reeling. And that's what helped Oklahoma win this game. Despite blowing the lead late in the game, they were able to hang on because they still had a shred of momentum from the start of the game, and they never really lost it. And so they were able to hang on late to finally finish off this team. It was a late rally. It was too little too late. It was not enough. Again, Tyler Tanner with 37 points was your leading scorer. And again, this game, when you look at it, it's not what you want. It's the finish. I'll be honest with you. I walked away from this game and I was like, yeah, this is terrible. This is terrible. This is awful. And well, I looked at the final. I'm like, well, how did that happen? Tyler Nickel hit a 3-pointer with about 90 seconds left. And then that kind of with about 90 seconds left, that's what started a flurry of points, right? They just had, Okirike had that 4-point play to make it a 2-possession game. If they'd have just played that sharp coming out, they would have been fine. But they didn't. So anyway, good, bad, the ugly, whatever it is, you take whatever you need to from this game, and then you travel down to Auburn and you try to do it all over again. And for this team, it's important you have to figure out, and they've done it before, and they've done it countless times. They're 19-4, so obviously they've done it a bunch because this has been the same lineup. Now you're depleted. Your lineup is depleted. Like Duke Miles, I don't know if he's going to be back on next week. I don't think he will be. Collins, I don't know what's going on there. He's been medically cleared, but obviously there's something going on with that. Not sure exactly what it is. Only Coach Byington and the staff and the team knows, but he's been very vague with giving responses to that. So we'll see. It's going to be the Nickel and Tanner show again, and down in Auburn. This front court's going to have their work cut out for them down in Auburn, right? And Auburn's got their own distractions going on, so it's not exactly cut and dry there for the Auburn Tigers. But again, what Vandy really has to do is, we know the deficiencies and we know what Auburn's going to attack. For Auburn, it's obviously Keyshawn Hall. You got to figure out what you can do there. He's a forward. He's averaging almost 21 points per game. Tahad Pettiford is somebody you have to contend with. I mean, this team plays extremely well. I don't know that they play with consistency. They lost the basketball Iron Bowl today, 96-92. They're on a 2-game skid. They lost to Tennessee the game before that. They had a 4-game win streak coming into last week, so they lost both of their games this week against Tennessee and Alabama. So they're hungry, man. They're hungry, and so for this team, for Vanderbilt, they've got to figure out how to contend with this front court. Keyshawn Hall, Keyshawn Murphy, and you have Sebastian Williams-Adams. You've got some things. You've got some things going. I mean, they've got a good roster. They've got a big long roster, and it's going to be tough to deal with on the road. That place is a tough place to play. So you have to, for Vanderbilt, they just have to figure out if they can just, because they've been at deficiency before. They've been at a deficiency before. In just about every game they play, they're probably going to be outmatched in the front court. The only team they probably could come out and steamroll is South Carolina. And the fact that they came out and steamrolled the last 3 opponents before this, well, they didn't really steamroll Ole Miss. Probably could have, but they just didn't. But the 2 opponents before that, they actually did steamroll, one of them on the road. But you look at it and say, okay, well, how did they do that in those games? I'll tell you how they did it. They came out with their hair on fire. They came out with a purpose. They came out with a plan. They came out well prepared. They knew how they were going to attack, and they knew exactly what they wanted to do, especially against Kentucky. Like that game right there, that was a perfect game for Vanderbilt to just get crushed, because Kentucky has a pretty good front court. Mississippi State has a pretty good front court. Ole Miss has a good front court. That game was tight, but again, I felt like Vanderbilt was in control of that for pretty much the entire thing. Vanderbilt was at a disadvantage in the front court probably in all 3 of those games, but they came out with a plan. They came out on fire. They came out with a purpose. They came out firing all cylinders. Tanner, he knew what had to be done. The front court was able to help out. Chandler Bing and Mike James had really good minutes. Tyler Harris had some good minutes as well off the bench in those 3 wins prior to today. They've got to get contribution from the bench, especially being depleted. I think Tyler Nickel has got to get on a better streak here. I think he's got to go north of 40% from behind the arc. I mean, he's got to hit some big shots, get some momentum going. Tanner's got to start well early. I think you're going to have to establish something in the paint with one of your front court guys, Okirike, Washington, or McLaughlin. Somebody's going to have to just say, you know what, screw it. We're coming after you. We're going to put you on your heels, and that's the mentality you have to have. And if you don't have that, if you're passive, which Vanderbilt was at the start of the game, you're going to get down big, and then you can't call your, especially on the road. It's going to be an uphill climb. It's going to be another 30-piece, and you can't have that. So just got to start better. That's simply put, start better, and then see where that goes. And if Auburn ends up beating you because they're the better team, then so be it. But you started well. You competed down the stretch. Like the Florida game, I'm not mad at that. You competed against a superior team, and you were in it. You had a bad call, some bad luck, and Florida closed the game well. They win that game. Like that's the type of games you want Vanderbilt to be in. It's not these like you get 30-pieced at Arkansas, you get 20 burgered at Texas. Like that. Those aren't games that do you any good. So anyway, well, that's all I got. Thanks for listening. Thank you for joining. Going to talk some more football, obviously, the Jared Curtis era. The spring game was announced, so we got a target in mind. We got a target in mind. We got a lot of new players, a lot of storylines to discuss upcoming, on the way to spring practice. Spring practice will unfold some new storylines or some updates to the current storylines, and then we'll get you into the summer, of course, baseball, basketball as it finishes up. We'll talk about all of that right here on the Locked On Vandy podcast. Make sure you join the Everydayer Club, ad-free audio, Discord channel access. Like, you can't go wrong there. Join the Everydayer Club. Link is down in the description. And until next time, anchor down. Peace.